What law am I breaking, officer?
We'll talk about it in the car, sir. Just step in for me, please.
Man, you ever have one of those nights where the weight just sits on your chest like wet concrete, where every breath feels like you're pulling air through a wet rag? That's where this story lives. A badge can blind a man faster than fog on a Georgia highway at 2 a.m. It can make him forget the face looking back at him might be the one signing his checks tomorrow. Let me tell you about the night a cop decided I was just another black man who didn't belong, and how that decision started unraveling everything he thought he owned. Y'all watching this right now? Where you at? Chicago? London? Lagos? Drop it in the comments. And real talk. You ever had to hold your breath during a conversation just to make it to the other side alive? Hit like if that's you. Subscribe if you need these stories to keep coming. 'Cause they ain't stopping. It was one of those Atlanta nights where the rain doesn't pour. It just hangs there, steady and mean, turning every street into a mirror of red taillights and sodium yellow street lamps. I was behind the wheel of my '09 Impala, the one with the cracked dashboard leather and the faint smell of old coffee that never quite leaves the vents. Radio was low, Luther Vandross singing something smooth about never too much, but I wasn't really listening. I'd just come from my sister's place over in East Point. Quiet dinner, fried okra, her laughing about how I still eat like I'm 25. She didn't know yet. Nobody outside the top brass did. I was still in the handover week, the quiet transition nobody announces with parades. Tomorrow morning I'd walk into headquarters wearing the stars, sit at the long table, and officially become Deputy Chief Marcus Reed. Tonight, though? Tonight I was just Marcus, driving home in plain clothes, no department plates, no lights, no siren. Tonight, I was just a tired 48-year-old trying to make it to his own bed without drama. The rain made the asphalt hiss under the tires. I was on Campbellton Road heading toward the perimeter. That stretches where the city starts bleeding into quiet residential pockets, and then industrial dead zones. Old warehouses with busted windows, chain-link fences rattling in the wind. Headlights caught puddles, turned them into liquid fire. I kept both hands at 10 and 2 like my daddy taught me, back when I was 16 and he was still alive to teach anything. Rule number 1, don't give them a reason. Then the blue and red lights filled the rear view. Not sudden, not screaming, just there, like they'd been waiting. My stomach didn't drop the way it used to when I was younger. It just settled, heavy and familiar, like putting on an old coat you hate but no fit's perfect. I signaled, eased over to the shoulder slow, tires crunching wet gravel. Put the car in park, hands back on the wheel, visible. Engine still running, wipers slapping back and forth. I took one long breath through my nose, smelled rain, motor oil, the faint leather of the seats, and waited. Footsteps on gravel. One set, heavy boots. Flashlight beam hit the side mirror first, then swept across my face like a blade. I didn't squint. I just looked straight ahead. Driver's side window was already down an inch. I lowered it the rest of the way with the button, slow, no sudden moves. Raindrops hit the door panel, cold little taps. "Evening," the voice said. Deep Georgia drawl, not friendly, not hostile yet, just official. "License and registration?" I nodded once. "Yes, sir." Kept my movements deliberate. Left hand on the wheel, right hand slow to the glove box. I could feel his beam tracking every inch. Pulled the registration out first, clean, current, then fished my wallet from the console. I opened my wallet, slid the Georgia driver's license free, handed both through the window without looking directly at him. Peripheral only, safer that way. He took them. Didn't say thank you. Just stepped back a foot, shining the light down on the plastic like he was reading fine print on a contract. "Mr. Reed," he said after a long beat, "you know why I stopped you?" "No, sir," I answered. Voice even, not loud, not quiet. Just there. Taillights out. Right side. I nodded again. I checked them this morning, officer. Both working when I left the house. He didn't respond to that. Just kept staring at the license like it might change if he looked hard enough. Rain pattered on his campaign hat, little drops rolling off the brim. Step out of the vehicle. No question in it. Command. I exhaled through my nose, felt the air leave slow. Yes, sir. I killed the engine, opened the door careful, no fast reach for anything, stepped out into the rain. It hit me immediate, cold, steady, soaking the shoulders of my Navy windbreaker in seconds. Water ran down the back of my neck, slipped under the collar, traced my spine like ice fingers. I stood straight, hands loose at my sides, palms out a little, 6'2", 220, but I made myself smaller without trying. Years of practice. He was younger than I expected, maybe early 30s, white, close-cropped hair under the hat, name tag red haze, shoulders squared like he was still proving something. Flashlight stayed on my chest now, not my face. Progress, maybe. Hands where I can see 'em, he said. They already were. He stepped closer. Rain drummed on his raincoat, louder than it should have been. Smell of wet nylon and something sharper. Adrenaline, maybe, or just the cheap aftershave cutting through the damp. Anything in your pockets I need to know about? He asked. No weapons, no contraband, I said. Wallet, phone, keys, that's it. Turn around, hands on the hood. I did, palms flat on the wet metal. Hood was still warm from the drive. Rain collected in little rivers between my fingers. I spread my feet shoulder width like I'd been taught, both by the academy 25 years ago and by too many stops since. He patted me down, not gentle, not violent either, just thorough, in that way that says he already decided I was hiding something. Hands moved quick over my shoulders, down my sides, along the waistband, legs. Found nothing because there was nothing. When he finished, he stepped back. Stay right there. I heard him walk back to his cruiser. Door opened, closed. Radio crackled low. Words I couldn't make out over the rain. I kept my eyes forward, watched water streak down the windshield, watched my own reflection ghost in the glass. Older than I felt most days, lines deeper around the eyes, gray creeping at the temples. Man who'd spent half his life trying to fix what was broken, now standing in the rain like he'd done something wrong just by existing. Minutes dragged. Rain didn't let up. My shirt clung cold to my back. Shoulders started to ache from holding position. Not bad yet, just the beginning of that slow burn you learn to ignore. Boots on gravel again. Closer this time. Mr. Reed, he said, voice tighter now, I'm going to need you to turn around slow. I did. Slow. He was holding my license between two fingers like it burned him. This says Marcus Reed, address in Cascade Heights. Yes, sir. You live there alone? With my wife. 2 grown kids moved out. He didn't nod, didn't blink, just stared. Mind if I take a look in the vehicle? You got a reason? I asked, calm, not challenging, just asking. Reasons I smell marijuana, he said. I almost laughed, dry, inside my chest, nowhere near my mouth. No weed in the car, never had been, not in 20 years, but I knew the script. I don't smoke, I said. Never have. You're welcome to look, but there's nothing there. He didn't wait for more permission. Opened the driver's door. Leaned in. Flashlight swept the seats, floorboards, center console. I stood in the rain and watched him search my life like it was trash day. Nothing. He straightened, face harder now, rain dripping off his hat brim onto his collar. Hands behind your back, he said. My heart gave one hard knock, then settled again. I'd known this was coming the second the lights hit the mirror. Still felt like swallowing glass. Am I under arrest? I asked. You're being detained, he said. Hands. I turned slow, put my hands behind me. Felt the cold click of steel. One wrist, then the other. Ratchet sound loud against the rain. Cuffs tight, not cutting, but snug enough to remind me who was holding the key. He spun me back around, pushed my chest against the hood again. Cheek met wet metal. Breath fogged the paint. Smell of motor oil and rain and my own pulse in my ears. He started reading. You have the right to remain silent. I didn't interrupt, just listened. Rain kept falling. Cuffs bit a little deeper every time I shifted. Shoulders burned now, real burn. Circulation slowing. He finished Miranda, grabbed my elbow, started walking me toward his cruiser. Gravel crunched under our shoes. Rain ran into my eyes, stung. I blinked it away. Door to the back seat opened. Wet vinyl smell hit me. Old sweat, disinfectant, metal. He put a hand on top of my head, standard, almost gentle, and guided me in. I ducked, sat. Door slammed, dark inside. Rain louder on the roof. Blue and red lights pulsing across my face through the cage. I sat straight. Didn't slump, didn't beg. Just breathed slow through my nose. Watched him walk back to my Impala. Saw him lean in again, flashlight sweeping. Saw him shake his head like he was disappointed the car hadn't confessed. Then he turned, started walking back toward his cruiser. That's when I felt it. Small vibration in my pocket. Phone. Silent alarm already triggered 30 seconds after the cuffs clicked. Department protocol for anyone carrying the gold shield during transition. 2 blocks back, unmarked detail sitting quiet, watching. I didn't smile, didn't move, just sat there in the dark, rain hammering the roof, cuffs cold against my wrists, waiting for the moment the weight on his shoulders finally matched the one he'd just put on mine. The back seat of that cruiser felt like a cage built for someone else, but there I was, wrists bound in metal that pinched just enough to remind me I wasn't going anywhere. The rain kept up its relentless beat on the roof, a steady thrum that vibrated through the thin padding under me. Blue and red lights spun lazy patterns across the divider cage, casting shadows that danced on my knees. I shifted a little, testing the cuffs, not out of hope, just to feel the limits. The steel dug in, sending a dull ache up my forearms. No blood, but close enough to make me focus on breathing steady. In through the nose, out through the mouth, the air inside smelled stale, like forgotten fast food wrappers mixed with the sharp tang of vinyl cleaner. Hayes was outside still, his silhouette blurred by the rain-streaked window. Pacing back to my Impala one more time like he might uncover a secret if he glared hard enough. I leaned my head back against the seat, eyes half closed, letting the world narrow to sensations. The wet chill from my soaked clothes seeped into my skin, turning everything clammy. My mind wandered, not in panic, but in that quiet drift you fall into when the body's locked down, but the thoughts run free. So was flashback to Pop's old porch in Macon, him sitting there after a long day in the fields, pipe smoke curling lazy in the humid air. "Boy," he'd say, voice gravel from years of dust and sun, "world don't see you till it wants to. You stay low, stay smart. They come at you with chains. You don't rattle them back, you wait." Chains, not literal back then, but close enough. Pop survived Jim Crow by being a ghost, head down, yes sir, no sir, swallowing pride like bitter medicine. I could almost hear his chuckle now, dry and knowing, as if he was watching this mess unfold from somewhere up high. See, Marcus? Still the same dance. The cruiser door creaked open on the driver's side. Hayes slid in, rain dripping off his sleeves onto the console. He didn't look back at me, just adjusted the mirror, keyed the radio. Static crackled, then a dispatcher's voice, tinny and distant. "Unit 47, status on the stop?" Hayes cleared his throat. "One in custody, possible narcotics, running plates now." Possible? I felt the lie settle in the air like smoke. No weed, no nothing, but he was building his story, brick by brick, the way some do when the facts don't fit. I stayed silent, watched the back of his head, the way his shoulders tensed under the uniform. He typed something into the dash computer, screen glow lighting his face in harsh blue. Rain kept pounding, a rhythm that matched my pulse now. Slow, deliberate. Another flash hit me. My first night shift as a beat cop 25 years back. Fresh out of the academy, badge shiny, ideals sharper. Partner was an old-timer named Ruiz, Puerto Rican guy with a mustache like a broom and eyes that missed nothing. We pulled over a kid in a beat-up Honda, late teens, black like me, hands shaking on the wheel. Ruiz went hard. Search, questions, the works. Kid had nothing, but Ruiz cuffed him anyway. Procedure, he said later, over bad coffee. I pushed back. For what? Ruiz just shrugged. Sometimes you gotta show 'em the line. That night, I lay awake in my apartment, staring at the ceiling fan spinning lazy circles. Swore I'd be different. Climbed the ranks slow. Detective, sergeant, lieutenant. Nights buried in case files. Lamplight flickering while my wife slept alone. Kids asking why daddy's always working. Proved myself twice over. Fixed what I could from inside. Now here I was, on the other side of the cage, feeling that old fire stir low in my gut. Not rage exactly, more like a coal that's been banked for years, glowing steady. Hayes twisted in his seat, finally looking back through the mesh. His eyes met mine in the dim light, narrow and assessing. You got anything you want to tell me now, Reed? Make this easier. I held his gaze, didn't blink. Nothing to tell, officer. I asked before, what law did I break? He snorted, a short bark that echoed in the tight space. You people always got questions. Tail light out, suspicious behavior. That's enough for now. We'll sort the rest at the station. You people. The words hung there, unspoken challenge. I felt them land like a slap, but I didn't flinch. Just nodded once, slow. Let the silence stretch. Rain filled it, drumming harder now, like it was trying to drown us both. He turned back front, muttering something low I couldn't catch. Engine revved. Cruiser lurched forward. We pulled away from my Impala, left it there on the shoulder like abandoned luggage. Tires hissed on wet pavement, puddles splashing up against the undercarriage. I watched the world slide by. Dark warehouses, flickering streetlights, a lone dog trotting along the fence line with its head down. Felt the motion in my bones, every bump jolting the cuffs. Circulation was fading in my hands now, fingers tingling like pins. I flexed them subtle, kept the blood moving. Mine drifted again, this time to my promotion board last month. Brass in suits, questions flying. How you gonna handle reform, Reed? Department's got eyes on it. I laid it out. Body cams always on. De-escalation training mandatory. Audits on every stop. They nodded, shook hands. You're the man for it. Now rolling in the back of this car, it all felt like a joke. The badge in my wallet, gold shield, deputy chief etched clean, burned against my thigh like irony. The radio buzzed again. Dispatch, 47, confirm ETA to Precinct. Hayes keyed back. 10 minutes. Subject compliant. Compliant. I almost smiled at that. Yeah, I was. Always had been in these moments, not out of fear, out of calculation. Pop's lesson, rattle too soon, you lose the game. I closed my eyes for a beat, let the rain's rhythm pull me under. Flashed to my daughter's graduation last year. Her in that cap and gown, beaming under stadium lights. Dad, you made this possible. Late nights helping her study, me quizzing her on civics while dinner went cold. Know your rights, baby girl, but know when to use 'em smart. What would she think now, seeing her old man cuffed like this? The thought twisted something deep, not anger, but a quiet resolve. This wasn't just my stop. It was every stop I'd reviewed in files. Black drivers, vague reasons, outcomes that skewed one way. Hayes took a turn sharp, cruiser swaying. My shoulder bumped the door. Watch it back there, he snapped, like it was my fault. I didn't respond, just straightened up, felt the wet fabric of my jacket pull tight across my chest. The ache in my wrists was steady now, a throb that synced with the wipers. Swish, throb, swish. Smell of his aftershave wafted back, cloying and cheap, mixing with the damp. He fiddled with the heat, blast of warm air drying the windows a little. Fog cleared, revealing more of the night, empty lots, graffiti on brick walls, a flickering neon sign for a closed diner. We were heading deeper into the industrial side, away from residential lights. Isolation settled in, heavy as the cuffs. Inner voice kicked up louder. Why this guy? Hayes. Name rang a faint bell from the handover briefs. Pattern of complaints. Excessive stops, mostly minorities, cams conveniently glitchy. Nothing stuck yet, but files were building. And here he was, living the pattern with me in the starring role. I swallowed the urge to speak. Let it burn slow. Flashed to my first big case as detective, busting a ring of dirty cops shaking down dealers. Stood in court, testified clean, watched them go down. Felt good then, like progress. Now, felt like running in place. The system chewed you up either way. Wear the badge, still get profiled. No badge could erase the skin. He glanced in the mirror again. You look familiar, Reed. You from around here? Fishing. I met his eyes steady. Born and raised. Atlanta through and through. He hummed, non-committal. Yeah? What you do for work? Pause. I could have dropped it then. The title, the shield. Watched his world flip. But no, let him dig. Public service, I said. Vague. True. He chuckled low. Figures. Always the ones who think they're above it. Above what? I didn't bite. Just watched a rain streak the window. Lights blurring into streaks. Cruiser slowed at a red light. Empty intersection, no other cars. Hayes drummed fingers on the wheel. Tension coiled in the air, thick as humidity. My phone buzzed again. Silent. Pocket vibe. Alarm protocol. Ping every 5 minutes till response. Detail was out there. Shadows in the rain. Logging every second. I felt a ghost of calm settle. Not relief deeper. Like knowing the tide's turning, even if the waves still crash. He accelerated through the green. Station's close. You got one more chance to come clean. I stayed quiet. Let the rain answer. Flashed to my wife. Her face when I left for dinner. Be safe, baby. Always said it, like a prayer. What would she say now? The thought fueled the coal, made it glow hotter. Not for me, for every brother who'd sat here before. No alarm to trigger, no flip coming. Hayes radioed ahead, inbound with detainee, prep holding. Dispatch affirmed. We turned into the precinct lot, gravel crunching, lights bright overhead. He parked sloppy, killed the engine. Rain eased a touch, but still steady. Door opened, cold air rushed in. He hauled me out by the elbow. Not rough, but firm. Feet hit wet pavement, legs stiff from the ride, cuffs pulled taut. He steered me toward the doors, hand on my arm like ownership. As we crossed the lot, puddles reflecting floodlights, I felt the weight shift, not off me, but onto him. Silent alarm had done its job. Somewhere in the shadows, wheels were turning. I kept my head high, steps even, breathing through the ache. The precinct loomed, doors hissing open automatic. Inside, fluorescent buzz, smell of coffee and paper. Hayes pushed me forward, toward booking. That's when the first crack showed. His grip tightened just a fraction, like he sensed the air changing. I didn't say a word, just walked, cuffs cold, rain dripping from my hair, waiting for the storm to break on him. That's when the first crack showed. His grip tightened just a fraction, like he sensed the air changing. I didn't say a word, just walked, cuffs cold, rain dripping from my hair, waiting for the storm to break on him. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead like trapped insects the second we crossed the threshold into the precinct lobby. The automatic doors hissed shut behind us, sealing out the rain but trapping the damp chill inside my clothes. Hayes kept his grip on my upper arm, not bruising, just possessive, as he steered me past the front desk. A night shift sergeant glanced up from his paperwork, eyes flicking over me quick, then back down. No recognition, no surprise. Just another body in cuffs walking through on a Tuesday night that felt like every other Tuesday night in this building. The booking area smelled of burnt coffee, old toner, and the faint metallic bite of fear sweat that never quite washes out of the walls. Overhead speakers crackled with dispatch chatter. Another domestic, a hit and run on I-85, routine noise. Hayes pushed me toward the fingerprint station. My shoes squeaked on the linoleum, still wet from the lot. Each step sent a fresh jolt through my shoulders. The cuffs had settled into a constant throb now, like two cold vices slowly tightening. He stopped me in front of the scanner. Face the wall, feet apart. I complied. Palms flat against the cinder block, cool, rough texture under my fingertips. The position pulled my arms back harder, stretching the muscles across my chest. Breathing got shallower. I focused on the grain of the paint, small cracks spidering out like veins. Hayes stepped behind me, unlocking one cuff long enough to guide my right hand to the pad. Ink rolled across my fingertips, black and sticky, then the left. The machine beeped, capturing prints that had already lived in this system for decades, first as a rookie, then as every rank up the ladder. Irony tasted like copper on my tongue. He recuffed me, tighter this time, like he needed to reassert control after the small interruption of procedure. "Sit," he said, nodding toward a metal bench bolted to the floor. I lowered myself careful, knees protesting from the ride, back stiff. The bench was ice through my wet pants. I leaned forward slightly, elbows on thighs, hands dangling between my knees. The chain between the cuffs clinked softly against itself. Hayes walked off to the side counter, started filling out the arrest report on a battered clipboard. I watched him from the corner of my eye. Pen moved fast, angry scratches across the paper. Every few seconds he glanced over, like he expected me to bolt or beg. Neither was happening. I sat still, letting the precinct sounds wash over me. The clack of keyboards, low voices from the bullpen, a phone ringing unanswered somewhere down the hall. My thoughts turned inward again. Quieter this time. Less like memories and more like echoes settling into place. I pictured the handover briefing room tomorrow morning. Long oak table, coffee urn steaming, chiefs in starched shirts reviewing crime stats. I'd planned to walk in calm, shake hands, lay out the first 90-day priorities, transparency logs, community liaisons, zero tolerance for pattern stops like the one I was sitting through right now. Instead, here I was, detainee number whatever, waiting to be processed by a man who just invented probable cause out of thin air. A young officer, uniform crisp, maybe 24, walked past with a stack of files, paused when he saw me, eyes widened just a fraction. "That's Chief Reed?" Voice low, almost a whisper. Hayes snapped his head around. "What did you say?" The kid swallowed. "Nothing, sir. Just thought I recognized him." Hayes laughed, short, forced. "You recognize a lot of faces in cuffs, rookie? Get back to your desk." The kid hurried off, cheeks flushed. Hayes turned back to his clipboard, but his pen hesitated now. First crack in the armor. Small, but there. I didn't react, didn't smile, didn't nod. Just sat, feeling the bench's cold creep up my spine. The precinct clock on the wall ticked loud, each second stretching. My phone had gone quiet in my pocket. No more vibrations. Either the battery died from the rain, or the detail had switched to radio silence. Either way, the clock was ticking on their end too. Another officer approached. Female, mid-30s, sergeant stripes. She carried a tablet, scrolling as she walked. Stopped in front of Hayes. "You the one who brought in the taillight guy?" "Yeah. Possible 420 smell. Non-compliant attitude." She raised an eyebrow. "Non-compliant how?" questioning every command. You know the type. She looked at me then. Really looked. Recognition hit slow, like dawn creeping over the skyline. Her mouth parted slightly. Holy, Sergeant Hayes, you sure about this? Hayes stiffened. What's the problem? She lowered her voice. That's Marcus Reed, incoming deputy chief. Transition starts tomorrow. The air changed. Not dramatic, no sirens, no sudden spotlight. Just a shift in pressure, like the room exhaled all at once. Hayes froze, pen hovering. Color drained from his neck upward, leaving his face the color of old paper. He turned toward me, slow, eyes searching my face like he was seeing it for the first time. The campaign hat still dripped rain onto his shoulder, but he didn't notice. I met his stare. Calm, no triumph, no venom, just fact. You're shitting me, he muttered. The sergeant shook her head. Body cam footage is already uploading to Central. Detail was trailing 2 blocks back. Full audio, full video. They're en route now. Hayes's hand trembled. Just a twitch, but enough. The clipboard slipped an inch. He caught it, knuckles white. The taillight was out. I smelled... Smelled what? She cut in. Nothing in the vehicle. Prints are already running. His shield's in his wallet. You cuffed the next boss of this department on a hunch. Silence swallowed the booking area. Even the dispatch chatter seemed to fade. Hayes looked around like he was searching for an exit that didn't exist. His Adam's apple bobbed hard. Sweat beaded on his upper lip despite the chill. I spoke then. First word since the bench. Voice low, steady, carrying just enough to reach him. I told you twice. I didn't know why you stopped me. You decided what you saw before you asked. He opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Just a dry click in his throat. The sergeant stepped between us. Uncuff him, now. Hayes fumbled the keys. Fingers shook so bad he dropped them once. Metal clattered on linoleum, sharp and final. He bent, retrieved them, straightened. Came over slow, like approaching a live wire. Unlocked the right cuff first, then the left. Steel fell away. Blood rushed back into my hands in a painful flood. Pins and needles, hot and sharp. I rubbed my wrists slow, feeling the deep red grooves where the metal had bitten. I stood, straightened my soaked windbreaker, looked down at Hayes, 6'2" to his 5'11", but the height difference felt bigger now. He couldn't hold my eyes, stared at the floor instead. I didn't know. You didn't ask, I said, not angry, just true. The precinct doors banged open behind us. 2 plainclothes, my detail, strode in fast. Rain glistened on their jackets. One carried a tablet already playing muted footage. Me on the hood, cuffs clicking. Hayes' voice barking orders. The other held a radio to his ear, speaking low. Lieutenant Torres, the first one said, nodding at me. Chief, you good? I nodded once. I'm good. Torres turned to Hayes. Badge and gun, on the counter. You're relieved pending investigation. Hayes moved like a man sleepwalking. Unclipped the holster, set the service weapon down gentle. Badge followed. Gold shield catching the fluorescence one last time. He looked smaller without them. Shoulders rounded. Face gray. The sergeant guided him toward the hallway. Come on. Captain wants you in his office. He didn't resist. Just walked, head down, boots dragging. The precinct watched in silence. No cheers, no jeers. Just the weight of what had just happened settling over everyone like fog. I stayed where I was, rubbed my wrists again, felt the blood flow return, warm and prickling, looked at the bench I'd just vacated, still wet from my clothes, looked at the fingerprint scanner, my prints fresh and black on the pad, looked at the clock. 2:47 a.m. hours till the handover meeting, hours till the city woke up, and this story started spreading like ripples in a puddle. Torres stepped closer. We got everything. Dash cam, body cam, pole camera at the stop, full chain. IA's already pulling his file. Pattern stops going back years. This one's the nail. I exhaled long, felt the knot in my chest loosen just a fraction. Not gone, never fully gone, but looser. Get me a dry shirt, I said. And coffee, black. Torres nodded. On it, Chief. I walked to the window overlooking the lot. Rain had slowed to a drizzle now. My Impala still sat out there, lonely under the floodlights. Puddles reflected blue and red from the cruisers, softer now, fading. I pressed my palm to the glass. Cold seeped through, felt the pulse in my wrist, steady again. Felt the quiet shift inside. Not victory, not yet. Just the beginning of something heavier. Accountability. The word tasted different when you carried it in your own bones. Behind me, the precinct kept moving. Phones ringing, officers murmuring, doors opening and closing. Life going on. But for Hayes, the life he knew had just cracked open. And for me, the night was far from over. The precinct window fogged where my palm had pressed against it. I pulled my hand away slow, leaving a clear outline that faded almost immediately, like the night itself was erasing evidence of my touch. Behind me, the room kept breathing. Keyboards tapping uneven rhythms, a copier humming in the copy room, low conversations that dropped to whispers whenever someone passed close. Torres returned with a gray department sweatshirt, still folded stiff from the supply closet, and a styrofoam cup steaming black coffee. No cream, no sugar. Exactly right. I took the cup first. Heat seeped through the thin walls into my chilled fingers, chasing away the last of the pins and needles from the cuffs. Sipped once, bitter, strong, grounding. Then I shrugged out of the soaked windbreaker, peeled the wet shirt underneath away from my skin. The air hit cold for a second before I pulled the sweatshirt over my head. Cotton smelled faintly of industrial detergent and storage. It hung loose on me, sleeves too long, but dry was dry. I rolled the cuffs up twice, felt human again in small degrees. Torres waited a respectful step back. Captain's office is ready when you are. He wants a quick debrief before IA takes over the paperwork. I nodded. Give me 5. He left me at the window. I stayed there, staring out at the lot. My Impala hadn't moved, still parked crooked under the sodium lights, raindrops sliding down the windshield in slow, patient lines. A tow truck idled at the far end of the fence, headlights cutting yellow beams through the drizzle. Someone had already called it in. Protocol. Evidence preservation. My car was now part of the file. I turned away from the glass, walked the short hallway to the captain's door. Knocked once. Light. Voice from inside. Come. Captain Ellis looked up from his desk when I entered. Older white man, salt and pepper hair cropped military short, eyes tired but sharp. He'd been one of the panel that approved my appointment. Stood when he saw me, extended his hand across the desk. Marcus, Jesus, sit. I took the chair opposite. Leather creaked under me. Coffee cup warmed my hands again. He leaned back, rubbed his jaw. I just got off with the chief. Full stand down on Hayes, badge, gun, cruiser keys. Everything's already logged. IA's pulling every stop he's made in the last 36 months. Preliminary look shows a pattern. Same profile. Late night, black or brown drivers, equipment violations that vanish after the fact. Body cams malfunctioning more often than statistics allow. Your stop was the cleanest catch we've had in years. Pole cam, dash, his own body. Nothing left to spin. I sipped coffee. Let the burn settle in his throat. How far back? 8 years, minimum. Complaints buried. Supervisors signing off without follow-up. Blue wall held until tonight. I set the cup down. I want the full audit. Not just his file, the unit, the shift, anyone who looked the other way. Ellis nodded slow. Already in motion. Chief authorized external oversight. State AG's office is looping in by morning. No internal whitewash this time. Silence stretched between us. Not uncomfortable. just heavy with what neither of us needed to say out loud. He broke it first. You could have ended it on the roadside. One word. I'm Deputy Chief Reed. He would have folded like wet cardboard. I looked at him straight. I wanted to see how far he'd go without knowing. Wanted to know what happens when the face in the driver's seat doesn't carry a title. Ellis exhaled through his nose. And now we all know. Yeah. He slid a thin folder across the desk. Initial incident report, his version, reads like fiction. You'll want to add your statement before the lawyers get involved. I opened it, scanned the first page. Suspicious odor of marijuana, subject became belligerent, resisted verbal commands. I closed it without finishing. I'll write mine tonight. Home, dry clothes, my own desk. Understood. He paused. The city's already talking settlement. Lawyers are drafting. 7 figures minimum, punitive on top. You want to keep any of it? I shook my head once. None. Set up a fund. Wrongful stops, excessive force claims, legal aid for folks who can't afford the fight. Same as we talked about in the interview. Make it named after someone who didn't get the flip. He wrote a quick note on a pad. Done. I stood. I'll be in at 0800, same as planned. No press release yet. Let IA finish the prelim. Ellis rose too, shook my hand again, firmer this time. You're still walking in as deputy chief. Nothing changes that. Everything changes that, I said quiet. But yeah, I'm walking in. I left his office. Hallway felt longer on the way back. Officers nodded when I passed. Quick, respectful, eyes holding mine a second longer than usual. Word had spread. Not gossip, fact. Outside, Torres waited by the doors with my keys. Impala's cleared. You're good to drive it home. We'll follow till you're inside. I took the keys. Felt their familiar weight. Appreciate it. Rain had stopped completely. Air smelled clean. Wet pavement. Distant diesel. Faint pine from the windbreak along the fence. I crossed the lot slow. Unlocked the Impala. Slide behind the wheel. Leather still damp but familiar. Started the engine. Radio came on low. Same Luther Vandross station from earlier, now playing A House Is Not a Home. I turned the volume down to nothing. Just sat in the quiet hum of the motor. Looked at the precinct one last time. Lights still bright. Windows glowing yellow against the dark. Somewhere inside, Hayes was sitting in a hard chair. No badge, no gun, no story that held water anymore. Facing the same questions he'd asked so many others. The wheel had turned, not with fireworks, not with shouting, just with quiet, relentless procedure. I pulled out of the lot. Headlights swept the wet asphalt. Followed the same route home. Campbellton, Perimeter, Cascade Heights. No blue and red in the mirror this time. Just my own taillights glowing steady red. The house was dark when I turned into the driveway. Porch light on timer. I killed the engine. Sat another minute. Felt the night settle around me like a coat I'd worn too long. Wrists still ached. Faint red lines that would fade by morning. Scars inside would take longer. I got out, locked the car, walked up the steps, key in the lock. Door opened quiet. Inside, smell of lemon cleaner, faint trace of the dinner I'd eaten hours ago at my sister's. I didn't turn on lights, just kicked off my shoes, hung the damp windbreaker on the hall hook, padded to the kitchen in socks, sat at the table, pulled out my phone, battery low, but alive. No missed calls yet. Wife would be asleep upstairs. She'd hear the story tomorrow. We'd talk it through over coffee, same as every hard night before. I opened a blank note, started typing my statement, word by word. No anger, no embellishment, just what happened, what was said, what wasn't. When I finished, I saved it, set the phone down, looked out the window over the sink, street quiet, moon breaking through thinning clouds, silver light on wet leaves. I stood there a long time, felt the house breathe around me, creaks in the floorboards, hum of the fridge, distant train whistle rolling through the night like a memory. Tomorrow, I'd walk into headquarters, sit at the long table, look every person in the eye, start the work. But tonight I let the quiet hold me. Let the ache in my wrist remind me I'd carried the weight and handed it back. Let the house remind me why we keep showing up. Because some nights the badge blinds the man wearing it, and some nights the truth opens his eyes wide. I turned off the kitchen light, walked upstairs in the dark, slipped into bed beside my wife. She stirred once, reached for my hand without waking. I laced my fingers through hers, felt her steady breathing, closed my eyes, and for the first time that night, the weight lifted, just enough to let me sleep.